Yeah, which I guess first step is we can call it to order and do the pledge. And Ryan just snuck in, so
Okay, perfect.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
fantastic. Miss Cavisto, if we could go ahead and start with the roll, please.
Hello, Mr. Co-Chair, members of the board. Ms. Atkinson,
Here.
Ms. Chatterton,
Here.
Mr. Christensen. Not seeing Mr. Christensen. Okay.
Actually, he is in the attendee list. If we could, I just noticed he's over there. So if we could promote him to a panelist, he would be here. Sorry.
Nope, no worries. Thank you. I will follow back.
Thanks, Josh. I'm here, Mark Christensen.
Thank you. Ms. Crumpton,
Present.
Ms. Downham,
Here.
Mr. Lance,
Here.
Ms. Legursky,
Here.
Mr. Nelson,
Here.
Mr. Pivik,
Here.
Dr. Schaefer,
Here.
Mr. Smith,
Here.
and Ms. Worthen.
Here.
Wonderful. You have quorum.
Fantastic. And just we need to double check. Ms. Cavisto, did we have any requests for public comment?
Mr. Chairman, if you could note that I'm here,
Oh.
I think my appointment's official, but perhaps not.
And I appreciate let's acknowledge both of those two things. To let all the board know this is recent, to the point of Mr. Kinski just received his letter this morning. However, Mr. Kinski has been appointed to our last remaining seat on the Business Council board. So I'd like to, on behalf of the whole board, tell you thank you very much for your willingness and enthusiasm to join the board and join with all of us.
And I'm looking forward to it, Mr. Chairman. I'm very excited for all the opportunities that lie ahead of us. Thank you.
I'd also like to acknowledge Mr. Renzo from the governor's office, who has joined the board on behalf of the governor for our meeting today as well. So thank you very much for joining us and being with us today as well.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So with that, I'll go back to the public comment ask. I believe the answer was no, but I just want to confirm before we move on.
Mr. Co-Chair, that's correct. There is no requests.
Fantastic. Well, with that, we'll have to do a little bit of digital hoop jumping here. For the members of the board, we are going to head into an executive session. So I do need to ask for a motion for consideration of an executive session for discussion of personnel matters.
So Mr.
moved.
Chairman, I make the motion that we move to executive session.
I have a motion for Mr. Pivik. Do I have a second?
Second.
Well, okay, discussion, Mr. Durrell. You're on mute.
Maybe
Josh.
not as much discussion as just to ensure that members of the board and Mr. Renzo have the link to the executive session, including Mr. Kinski.
Is there anybody who does not have that link? I know we got Mr. Renzo scored away.
That would be in my email. Let me check real quick.
Yes, sir.
I'm not sure if I have that link.
Okay.
Is it just a different calendar invite?
Yes. So there's a second calendar invite, as well as there was an email from Courtney that had both links on it that she sent yesterday.
Would you mind sending that to my work email, somebody please? Because I can't access the WBC email from here.
You know what? I have a similar problem. Give me Just a second. If you could, Randy, send me a note or a text with your work email. I'm not sure. Let me see if I have it. I don't. If you could send that to me, I'll forward that on to you.
Thank
Is there
you.
anybody else that needs those links? Dave, do you want me to resend that to you as well?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, I'm looking in my calendar and I'm seeing a link to this meeting, but not a second link. So if it could be resent, I'd appreciate it.
I will send that to you at the same time as I send this to Miss Downham. Okay, so we'll get the two of you squared away. Everybody else have the links, and if we're good to make the jump, I would say go ahead and jump over, and I'll meet you over there just in a moment. And members of the public, we will come back to this meeting once we've concluded the executive session. Carrie, thank you for your patience and trying to get us all back in. Let me know when you think we've gotten all the board members back in and up as panelists, please.
I will do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did I go to the right meeting? Huh.
You in the right spot, Mr. Kinski. We're just in the process of getting everybody back in.
All right. Wait, I just want to make sure there wasn't a link I missed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hey, I think you're doing a hell of a job there.
Well, we're trying one step at a time.
I think chairmanship is difficult.
Mr. Co-Chair, I'd move that we dismiss ourselves from executive session and re-enter open session.
Fantastic. Do I have a second?
Second.
Great. We have a second from Mr. Kinski. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Carrie, I think we've got everybody. Can you confirm that for me, please?
It does look like we have everybody. I think if anything, we're missing maybe one, but I'll go ahead with the roll call and, oh, sorry, I'm just getting a note here. Our attorney has advised that we can't make any motions in executive session. Oh, including to end the executive session.
Oh,
Okay.
so we're out of it and we're good.
Yes, that's correct.
Fantastic. That's even easier than expected. We'll take it as a win.
Yeah.
And Ms. Cavisto, just for your reference, we entered our executive session at 3:15 and we departed the executive session at 4:50 with all the members of the board in attendance and Ms. Durenzio as representative from the governor's office, our co-chair.
Great. Thank you so much. All right. If it's okay at this time, I will go ahead and complete the roll call.
Please do.
Miss Atkinson.
Here.
Ms. Chatterton.
Here.
Mr. Christensen,
Here.
Ms. Crumpton.
Present, but I will be stepping out shortly.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Downham,
Here.
Mr. Kinsky,
Here.
Mr. Lance,
I'm here.
Ms. Legursky,
I'm here.
Mr. Nelson,
Here.
Mr. Pivik,
Here.
Dr. Schaefer,
Here.
Mr. Smith,
Present.
Ms. Worthen.
Here.
That is a complete list. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Ms. Cavisto.
You're welcome.
Thank you to all those involved with the meeting and listening for your patience as we worked through that executive session. The first point we'd like to bring up coming out of executive session is around the main purpose of us hosting that executive session around the CEO goals, expected outcomes, and deliverables. Ms. Worthen, I believe you have a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. Yes, I do. And I would move that that we accept the goals for the CEO as discussed in executive session.
And I second.
Fantastic. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll move to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Fantastic. Motion carries. Just would like to make a note to the public that we will be rolling out an overview of the CEO goals once we've had the opportunity to modify them with the revisions we've made in executive session. Yes, Mr. Renzo.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. I just wanted to make a note for the public that the governor does not have a vote because according to state statute, the governor is the co-chair but does not vote on actions in the Business Council board.
Thank you for that clarification. We appreciate it. And again, we appreciate your office being present in this meeting and look forward to that continued involvement going forward. And as a follow-up to the CEO goals conversation, the executive committee will be working with Mr. Durrell to review those goals and expected outcomes as they have come out of executive session. And the board commits to the continuous review of the performance of our CEO and continual alignments of the CEO's performance with the expectations of the board. So with that, we will move into our second line item unless there's any further discussion from anyone on the board or Mr. Durrell. I know we had intended to bring you into executive session and it just took longer than expected. So we made the decision to move back into public.
Mr. Co-Chair, no, I look forward to hearing more about the goals as they've been discussed and moving forward. Thanks.
And I would like to acknowledge your help, Mr. Durrell, as well as the help of many others in the drafting of those goals. I think it's time that we put something together like that for the CEO of the Business Council. Into our second agenda item around the supplemental budget request, I would like to acknowledge for the public and for our board, this was an item placed onto the agenda that has actually morphed into something else. We will not be taking into consideration a supplemental budget request. What we would like to emphasize, however, is that we will be looking to pursue that based upon the feedback that we receive from our stakeholders across the state, and would like to emphasize as a board that the CEO and the staff, your primary goal is to continue doing the work of creating that economic vision and direction for the state of Wyoming, and to continue your efforts with our communities to help them to succeed. The other efforts we're seeing legislatively and from the governor's office are very important and need to be taken seriously, but the primary role of the Business Council still remains the same. So with that in mind, we will go ahead and move into the last item, which is the role of the board during the interim legislative process. We do have significant business to cover here. You guys are going to have to listen to me a little bit more than normal. I don't have a committee chair I can pass this one over to. So first item of discussion is around the legislative interim topics, both with the Joint Minerals, I want to make sure I get the name right, the Joint Minerals Business and Economic Development Committee, as well as the Joint Appropriations Committee. We, as the Business Council, are their primary, or one of their primary focuses this interim session. And as such, that will take some significant involvement. And I think it's an appropriate expectation. I've spoken with many of you that the board will be involved with that. This is an agency, and we have a role to help shape that vision and to work with our partners in the legislature to shape it. So just speaking to next week, I know that we have multiple members that are planning to attend. I'd like to make sure that we open that up. I believe Mr. Durrell has done so to all of our board members to attend the meetings that are best able to reach them. I know at the very least, myself and Ms. Worthen will be attending the meeting in Casper, and I know that Dr. Schaefer will be attending the meeting in Rollins, and we all intend to sit at the table with Mr. Durrell as board members, so we all are representing the Wyoming Business Council. So I would like to, absolutely, Mr. Kinski, I was actually, you're beating me to the punch. Wanted to open up a little discussion, just a little. I know we're running over in regards to board involvement with this legislative process.
Well, I just wanted you to know I'll be there at both of those. I look forward to it. That's all.
Fantastic, Mr. Kinski. And please stay tuned. I know I've heard from a lot of you already about how can I get involved with this. Let's continue those efforts. I think the more voices we have involved, the better. Both for more ears to listen, but for more lenses to view situations from. So I look forward to every single one of you board members being involved in this legislative process as we go forward through the interim. The second layer is Mr. Renzo and the governor's office have asked for a task force of sorts from the Business Council, and I would like to commend herself and Chief Perkins and the governor's office for really working with us on crafting that into something that isn't just a duplicative effort, but really will allow us the opportunity to gain additional knowledge through the process. So just wanted to outline for the greater board what we're looking at with that group. They've asked for a core group of our board members to really work on what is the mission and the goal or the aim of the Business Council, and thinking through those ideas and then pitching them to, in essence, an outer circle or a group of external entities. Our internal group that we've pulled together to do this work would be myself chairing this effort with Ms. Worthen, Mr. Kinski, and Mr. Pivik. I tried to get a diverse group of backgrounds there on that group. Now, that doesn't mean that the input of the rest of the board isn't important and vital to these efforts. On the external side, we really are wanting to people that we can review these ideas with, get their feedback, and have some real, in-depth, honest conversations about it. We're still working on pulling that group together, but what we're looking for are, mayors, county members, business owners. So we really get all the people weighing in on how can the Business Council work better? How can we work stronger and support all of our stakeholders? Because we serve a variety of people in our communities. In a similar way, our communities are filled with a variety of different people. So, Mr. Renzo, not to put you on the spot, is there anything about that I missed that you'd like to make sure that the board and the public are aware of?
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chairman. You summarized it very well. I think the only thing I'd add is, the governor has valued collaborative processes throughout his entire term, and this represents that as well. His intent is for to ask the Business Council board to receive formalized feedback from these stakeholder groups that are so important to the economic development and structure of the state, and definitely the future on where we want to head. So that input remains very valuable, and so that just reflects the direction of what the governor would like to see with the board.
Fantastic. Any questions? I know I've hammered through those both pretty quickly. Any questions for myself or for Mr. Renzo and myself regarding the legislative or the governor's task force projects, or Mr. Durrell as well, because you know quite a bit there too. Shoot, everybody got quiet on us. So really just wanted to provide that update. There is an additional topic of discussion we wanted to dive into, and really taking that internal look at our organization and how can we as the board, how can we as the Business Council function better for our state and our communities. And that was around the idea of board composition and reviewing what's our composition, where are we coming from. I know Mr. Lance, your camera went dark, but I know you had some thoughts on this you wanted to start the conversation with.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. The executive committee and the board as a whole has been in discussion for some time about the role of the board going forward. And frankly, I think it played out prominently at the last SLIB board meeting, a State Loan and Investment Board meeting, where the State Loan and Investment Board made the decision to not move forward with the final approval of a grant application from the city of Cheyenne for some housing project work here. And I won't say it's off recurring theme, but it's enough that I think there's a lot of question about the value of the council as it's currently constituted. At best, we're an advisory board to them, and at worst, we're seen as either a blank check written to them or a stumbling stone along their way to deny a project. So I think from my perspective, the council's come under a lot of fire during the legislative session, some of it earned, some of it not. And my view is if you're going to take heat, you should at least have the authority that comes along with that heat. And, frankly, we don't. So in order to continue the discussion, I would make a motion, Mr. Co-Chair, and I'd look for a second so then we can have a more robust dialogue around my thinking. And it's really three parts. First is the current structure and composition of our board. Secondly, it's the role of the State Loan and Investment Board going forward. And frankly, then the third, the role of the governor as a co-chair. There are multiple other boards sit out there and they don't have the sort of oversight that we do. They frankly don't get as much garbage as we do. So with that said, I will make a motion that the Wyoming Business Council Board of Directors initiate a formal review of the composition, structure, and member qualifications of the board to ensure alignment with the board's strategic role and responsibilities. The review should evaluate whether the current board is appropriately structured to lead on strategy, not solely provide oversight, possesses the collective capabilities, experience, and perspectives necessary to guide Wyoming's evolving economic development priorities, is composed in a way that supports decisive, informed, and forward-looking decision-making. The review shall include, but not limited to, board composition. That includes skills, expertise, industry representation, and diversity of thought. Member qualifications, including expectations for experience, engagement, and contribution. Board structure, size, committee structure, and alignment on key strategic priorities. roles and responsibilities, including clarity between governance, strategy, and operational influence. And finally, decision-making processes, effectiveness, speed, and accountability. To that, I would add 2 other items that we should evaluate and make recommendations on, and that is our view on the continued involvement of the State Loan and Investment Board as a final approving entity for grants and loans and rules emanating from the board, and any statutory recommendations we'd like to make in those regards, and the continued existence as of the governor as our co-chair, as has been our practice since our inception.
I'll second.
Fantastic. I have a motion from Mr. Lance and a second from, I believe that was from Dr. Schaefer. Would love to open this topic up for discussion.
Can somebody background me on what the beef is, so that I understand the context?
Mr. Co-Chair, I can help. I can start. How about that?
Sounds perfect.
So, Dave, the history from my perspective is, when the board was initially created, there was this expectation that it was going to be a bunch of high-minded individuals like ourselves sitting around a table, thinking big thoughts about economic development and how we were going to take the state into the next century or decade of development. And I think there's some questions about whether our current composition in terms of the types of members, the types of backgrounds we have, distribution across the state is sufficient to accomplish that end. That includes whether we should have some folks from outside the state, but that still have ties to Wyoming in our midst. And so I think there's a question about, do we want to have some metrics by which we judge ourselves as a board and by which we qualify for membership on the board? So I think some of that gets sorted out in the vetting process for the council through the governor's office, which I'm sure Ms. Durenzio can enlighten us on. But I think it really highlights the importance of the qualifications that people should have to serve on the board. And then I've already given you my perspective on why we should take up the question of SLIB involvement and governor's office involvement in the discussion going forward. And we've heard from certain legislators that they don't necessarily think that we have the current best composition and the right membership to achieve the objectives that we've generally discussed in the goals and objectives document that we talked about earlier.
And the reason, with respect to the SLIB board and the governors, has there been a situation where, because I believe I understand the business council process. You receive grant applications from cities, counties, towns, councils, governmental entities. They've put in months, years of work. The business council then ranks them according to the number of jobs, the number of the pay of the jobs, and then how likely those jobs are to stay around, whether they have benefits, whether it's above average for the community, and then ranks them according to the funding that you've got, and then recommends approval or denial. You don't actually approve or deny, right? Then it goes to SLIB and they approve or deny. And so I'm reading between the lines here. There have been some situations where the board has recommended denial based on it's just not creating enough jobs and we don't have enough money for this project, and then SLIB reverses it. Is that what am I reading that right?
Mr. Co-Chair, I'll invite others to the discussion. Yes, that's correct. And then embedded in that, Dave, from your experience as mayor and Sheridan, certainly in your legislative experience, seeking that supplemental, I guess the final approval can sometimes cost us between 2 and 3 months, which doesn't really allow us to work at the pace of business, which is one of the main objections to some of the work that the council's done in the past and some of the blame that's been thrown at us that we don't know how to do this economic development business.
I don't know where they reversed you, but I can tell you from personal experience, you're absolutely right. Working from quarter to quarter, from meeting to meeting, it turns out my wife has a shirt-tail cousin on an economic development board in Texas. They make decisions in weeks. And if we're lucky, we're in years. And we really have got, to be effective, we've got to speed things up. I do agree with that. Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair and Mr. Lance.
Mr. Kensey, I appreciate the clarifying questions because I know a lot of people have the same, and Mr. Lance for the explanation. Dr. Schaefer, I think you were up first.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to add some color behind my second and maybe onto what Ryan has chatted about, two phenomenons that have been of interest to me over my now almost 15 years in the work I'm doing here in Wyoming. The first is our continued habit of pulling together knowledgeable groups of experts around an important topic and asking them to dedicate a substantial amount of their time for sometimes months, if not years, to make recommendations for things that should change or should happen or should occur, and to have those years of work of these people's time basically dismantled in minutes by singular political statements, whims, and processes. That's number one. Number two has been a perpetual conversation that the private sector functions best when it comes to business, and government should get out of the way. Now, I'm not so naive to believe that we will ever fully remove the political part of much of this work, but I'm also a realist, and we actually have built a structural component within the Business Council's work that actually embeds government into the decision, where you have staff, you have local communities, economic development agencies working tirelessly on projects and programs that then get vetted by a board of directors who are intended to be guiding the economic development activity of the state to essentially be dismantled or discarded by 5 elected individuals in an afternoon meeting. It goes against the very things we say we want to have happen in Wyoming, the speed of business, government get out of the way. And honestly, it's not going to encourage more board members to step up and say, yeah, let me commit 6 years of my life in these meetings, this work, or staff to go through this work, knowing that because of the political flavor or the issue du jour of who we're trying to kowtow to, can flip a vote on a project that is so important, like the one we saw in Cheyenne, and now I fear the two we might see in the future. So I share that for color because I support Mr. Lance's recommendation. And we have to start pushing back on some of these things if we are going to continue to do the lift, do the work, and ultimately take the heat of whether or not Wyoming's economy is succeeding or not. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dr. Schaefer, for your remarks. Mr. Pivick.
Dr. Schaefer and Co-Chair Smith, I appreciate all of those comments. One of the things that I want to make sure that we all understand is I think personally what happened in Cheyenne here a couple of weeks ago was tragic. We were helping build the infrastructure for economic development in Cheyenne, and it got kiboshed because of a political rhetoric as far as I'm concerned. I really want to make sure that people understand that we're not just here to bring people to work tomorrow. We're here to bring people to work in Wyoming for our future. And I'm with you, Dr. Schaefer, that 5 minutes and nobody really understood how hard the city of Cheyenne worked, how hard our whole staff worked. It's probably one of the best grants I've ever seen in my 2 years in this council, and it got kiboshed because of one really stupid thing. And I mean the word stupid. It was horrible. So Dr. Schaefer, I'm 100% on your side of what you had to say, and thank for your comments.
Thank you, Mr. Pivick. Mr. Christensen.
Mr. Co-Chairman, I appreciate the time. I was going to add to the discussion. I agree with what Dr. Schaefer said, but and this may be a question for the rest of this board. I believe some of the involvement with SLIB, and I agree that I've been in a number of these situations in time where you get the blame without the authority to make the change. I think that you do need to be able to move faster. I think that's the reason for the Business Council's board. But my own belief is part of this is a structural problem created by the legislature. And the reality is that a lot of the until recently, a lot of the programs and the funding for community enhancements, there's not a good system of. The Wyoming legislature has created a system where local government cannot sustain itself without being a mineral producing economy. Like 12 mills just doesn't do it for a county, 8 mills just doesn't do it for a city. So what we've created is we've created a system that is then really dependent upon the legislature for direct distribution or for funding through avenues like the Business Council. And I think that goes back to those years where everybody got a splash pad through the Business Council. And I always question whether or not that was the best use of Business Council funds. With that said, there was really no other way for communities to make a lot of those quality of life investments. So the way that legislatively this had been done was routed through the Business Council. I think if we want to make the case that we want more autonomy on the business decisions, I think we also make the case that those other things are still important and that maybe they just go direct to SLIB and allow this group to focus on business, allow those other things which are still critical until you create a system where government in Wyoming can sustain itself and make investments. And I think that I think you have to have the conversation of both at the same time. Thank you.
Mr. Crenshaw, I think that's a very validly made points, and I think is one of the large things that we're going to have to look at as an organization as we go through this process is those other things that have ended up at the Business Council that aren't necessarily directly business, right? So thank you very much for your remarks there. Mr. Lance, I would like to ask if you'd be open to a friendly amendment to add a deadline for the result of this review to be presented to the full board.
Depends on what that deadline is, and I'd be delighted to hear it. As you know, I'm all about immediacy these days.
I know you are. That's why I figured you'd accept it. I was thinking the idea of the end of June.
Perfect.
Okay.
I would second it with that amendment.
Perfect. Thank you both for that. I just think it's important for ourselves to make sure we have that deadline and also for others to see an expectation if we're going to hold others to the same. Yes, Mr. Kinski.
No, I go ahead with the amendment. I'll say I just need to say something because I work both sides of the street. And I can anticipate the phone calls that I'll get and say, well, Kinski, I've seen you lobby the SLIB, a few times to try and pull some things your way that I don't recall a time like that. I recall being on the losing side of that, where, we had something going and then there was something cut over here and I had to give up $2 million on behalf of the city of Sheridan to assuage something that, somebody wanted to happen over here. I might have pulled some candy out from somebody else and put ourselves in the front of the line. I don't remember it, but one of my former colleagues may call and remind me. It's tough to ask in a political process people to remove themselves from that process. I don't know that it would happen, but this is reminiscent of when you have a planning commission and you ask them to do the job and they've had the folks in the room and they've dealt with all the issues and then it goes to city council. I always caution city council, there'd be a bit of damn good reason before you reverse your planning commission for all the work they put into this, or we may not have a planning commission. And so that would be my same perspective on this. So I don't know the specific situations that you're talking about there. But somebody made reference to, if we get these things straightened out on what our role properly is and what statutorily these things should not go to. And if there is there used to be a fund over here, and Ryan may be able to remind me what it was called. It was usually $30 million, and that was the SLIB's money. Somebody needed a splash pad or something, they went to the SLIB for that. And there were some guidelines or criteria, not a whole lot. But in the old days, you never went to the Business Council for stuff you just needed for your community. It didn't meet any kind of straight-faced business development. I don't know if that fund still exists, but that's also maybe a recommendation we could make, that, because I don't want to pick a fight with anybody, but I don't, not saying that's what we're going to do, but we could ask them to remove themselves. I don't know if that would happen, but more constructively, maybe we suggest, look, maybe you put some funding over here for those kinds of things. And then maybe we recommend some stricter criteria as to what is or is not economic development over here. And that'd probably be a pretty big win. Anyway,
Yeah, I think Mr. Kinski, that's a great point and a great perspective to take on, as using this review as a jumping off point to see where we need to go, and I appreciate the efforts of this group that, if we approve this motion, to dig into that and really provide the greater board with what that outline will look like. Mr. Nelson.
Yeah, I'll be brief. Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. I just would really take a moment to say, as we look at the year of 26 and where we intend to go, what types of things we really look to accomplish, I would just lend support for the things that Mr. Lance is proposing here, and our ability to navigate those waters more effectively, to really be able to do our work at the speed of business, and to really further the development here in the state. So really not a lot of question in that, just more, I would like to formally go on record that I support this and think that it would be a good effort to move forward.
Fantastic, Mr. Nelson. Is there any further discussion? If not, I think we'll move forward towards a vote. Seeing none, all in favor of Mr. Lance's motion with the friendly amendment to add the due date for the project, please signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Fantastic. Motion carries. With this in mind, and since it was your motion, Mr. Lance, I would like to appoint you chair of this effort. And I haven't had the chance really to catch up with anybody, but I would like if Ms. Drews, Mr. Nelson, and Ms. Downham would be able to help you with that, Mr. Lance. If that doesn't work for one of the three of you, please let me know. But I think the four of you could do a great job in this review.
Mr. Co-Chair, I'm pleased to serve, and I think a group you've named, if they can do it, I'd be delighted to work with them to get it done in the timeline that you've announced. But I also think it begs the point as we're going forward here that, as I think Senator Kinski was right to point to the history of the mineral royalty grant pod at the SLIB, to have them have resources. We've also had consensus block grant dollars that were allocated, and then that the communities and the counties could spend via consensus. I think it begs the point that the Business Council is popular or unpopular now because we're the ones with some money. The reality is that our partners at the municipal and the county and frankly some of the statewide organizations, especially if the property tax reduction constitutional amendment passes, are going to be increasingly at odds with budget constraints. And I think the Business Council needs to stand strong for enhanced funding for our local governments to avoid potential conflict between just sort of standard run-of-the-mill normal operations of communities. And so they don't have to come and beg from us, but instead can have their own resources to do the work that they need to do. So I think we need to also stand firm on that funding piece going forward.
I think that is a fantastic point. And Mr. Christensen, you stated similarly. We need to stand strong to support our communities, whether it's from the Business Council perspective or helping others to be able to help our communities as well. So with that is the last item that I had on my agenda. I would like to thank you all for bearing with this an extra half hour longer than we expected. I would like to ask if there's any remarks for the good of the order before I move for adjournment.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to say again, you've done a fantastic job of moderating this thing through a lot of very difficult topics, and half hour behind in the greater scheme of things is almost on time as government goes. You did a great job, and thank you for that. Appreciate your service.
Well, I thank you for the feedback, Mr. Kinski. Mr. Durrell, do you have any remarks? I know you've been doing a lot of sitting and listening in this meeting. I just want to open up that opportunity.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Co-Chair, and thanks, board members, and thanks, Mr. Enzo, for joining today. I'm pretty encouraged about where we are going to be, because if you look at some of the things that are causing stumbling points within our system, we're the board and we're the team that needs to look at that and push for solutions to fix the problems, not lament about them, but push for solutions to them. And I appreciate the effort of the board and our team to look at these things and to continue to break down those barriers. And if you want to know what the Business Council does, that's what we do. And we do it with policy and funding. And I think an example of that is today with what we're asking for in terms of policy, and then what we'll be asking me and the team for in terms of goals. So I'm pretty bullish about Wyoming. I think we have we're in a good spot, and I think we've got a good opportunity, and we need to take it. And I think we need to be bold in the things that we bring forth, because Wyoming deserves it. So thanks for your service. Thanks for being bold. Welcome to the new members, especially Mr. Kinski, who just showed up, got the letter in the mail and then showed up for a marathon of a meeting and what was likely a great discussion around goals. So thank you all, and I look forward to continue working with you to make some differences here.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Durrell. Without any further comments, I'm not seeing any more hands coming up. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Seconded.
Great. I have a motion for Mr. Fivick, second for Mr. Nelson. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries, and I would like to thank you all for your time this afternoon. And going forward into the years, we have more of these special meetings than we've had in the past. So thank you all very much for your time.